If you are heading to the Olympic Stadium to watch the Paralympic events, well, it's looking like a glorious day here too. Temperatures up to around 25 Celsius, just a little patchy cloud turning the sunshine hazy at times. But we're going to end the day today on a bright, dry note. And staying dry for most of us overnight tonight as well. Some patchy cloud here and there, a bit more of a breeze than recent nights, and that means it should remain generally fog-free, where we have seen a few foggy patches for the past few mornings, and not quite as chilly, temperatures between 11 to 15 degrees. We are going to see a bit of a change coming through on Sunday, and that's because of this weather front that's heading in from the Atlantic, bringing tightening isobars with it too. And that indicates that the winds are going to be picking up from a southerly direction. It's going to turn quite breezy for many western areas, and that breeze introducing more in the way of cloud and of one or two showers, whereas further east we hold on to that warm sunshine. So for many western areas where we've got the breeze and the cloud, temperatures are going to be around about the mid-teens. Further east in the sunshine, highs of around 27 or 28 degrees.
I've missed something, haven't I?
Perhaps someone could tell me what's going on.
What's that? Who are you again?
He's your brother. What? How? Why? He's what? Everything clear?
The answer's no.
I don't know what happened.
Nobody likes missing the start.
Is that my computer? Of course.
Watch BBC Channels live on iPlayer on your computer and you can just start the programme again. From the beginning. Try out BBC iPlayer's new Live Restart.
It's gobsmackingly good.
Hello, these are the latest BBC News headlines with me, Kasia Madeira. Prosecutors in France say that the brother of a British man who was shot dead in his car while on holiday in the Alps has denied reports of a family dispute about money. Saad Al-Hili was killed with his wife and a woman believed to be his mother-in-law near the Alpine town of Annecy on Wednesday. President Obama and his Republican rival Mitt Romney have clashed over the latest US jobs data. Mr. Romney says the figures show President Obama has been steering the economy in the wrong direction. Mr. Obama blamed Republicans in Congress for blocking a plan he said would create 1 million new jobs. Prince Harry is beginning his second tour of duty in Afghanistan. The Prince, who's known in the army as Captain Wales, will spend 4 months as a gunner on an Apache attack helicopter serving in Helmand province. The 27-year-old Prince spent 10 weeks on the front line about 5 years ago. Now, for more than 4 decades, America has been fighting a war on drugs. And one thing it's learnt is that it pays to have good allies in this battle. Well, Cuba is not then an obvious candidate, but the island does have a zero-tolerance policy on drugs. And now Havana is helping American officials to stop the flow of narcotics from South America. Our correspondent Sarah Rainsford has this report from Havana.
Patrolling the coast of Cuba. It looks tranquil, but this island is key territory in the fight against international drug trafficking. It was a busy route in the 1990s, but Cuba has upped its guard. This video shows what happens now when smugglers try to pass. Most boats are heading for the United States, stuffed with up to a ton of narcotics. Here, a crew under pursuit tries to dump the evidence. Securing those drugs is Cuba's key concern, and I was given rare access to see how the border guards operate. They once struggled for resources, but the boat we went out on had been confiscated from traffickers. This was a training drill, but the troops are under orders to keep genuine drugs off Cuba's shores. If they can't catch the smugglers themselves, Mago Yanes tells me they chase them out of these waters. But Cuba then passes on real-time data to the US Coast Guard to pick up the pursuit. It is rare teamwork for two old enemies. So in this exercise, the simulation drugs have been found and secured. The priority, of course, for the Cuban Coast Guard is making sure that real drugs don't make it onto the domestic market. But Cuba is so close to America that this island's zero-tolerance policy on drugs make it into a major obstacle for traffickers trying to reach the world's biggest drugs market. A very heavily policed society, it's no surprise communist Cuba isn't a big drugs market itself. Low supply means a joint of marijuana can cost up to a week's wage here, but some still see potential.
We've
noted that the high price of drugs has stimulated attempts to bring narcotics into Cuba for the internal market. There has been an increase in these operations at our airports. The amount of drugs is not huge, but it is a concern.
Hola. Hi, I'm Sarah.
Boris Adolfo tried that route, but I met him in a prison in Havana, where he's serving a 23-year sentence. He was trafficking human mules from Ecuador with stomachs full of cocaine. He says dozens more smugglers have since joined him behind bars.
Everybody trying to do that is gonna get caught, you know, with the... Yes, that's what I suppose. I think that the system of Cuba and the authorities, you know, they are, you know, I mean, very efficient, you know, regarding to that.
So Cuba's security forces are alert to the new threat. But for now, they say most drugs they seize were en route to the US and beyond. They end up in this steel factory. Last year, just over 9 tons of illicit narcotics went up in flames here. Sarah Rainsford, BBC News in central Cuba.
Well, that's it from me. Adnan Nawaz will be here at 2, but now on BBC News, it is time for Click.
Oh, come on, let's go and look at the latest TVs. No? OK, well, how about we look at the latest tablets over here? Well... All right, you can have a sausage. Welcome to Click. I'm Spencer Kelly, and welcome to Berlin. This is Messe Berlin, the enormous exhibition centre in the heart of the city. And this is where we're going to be spending the next few days as we explore Europe's largest technology show, IFA 2012.
Yes, this week we're living and breathing tech with a triumphant array of televisual displays. They are big and they are clever. We're also hands-on with Windows 8 and the flexible kit ready to bend over backwards for it. Making notes and making notes. But can you really be a genius on a tiny screen? All that plus the latest tech news and how to be cooler than your friends by listening to music no one's ever heard of, unless they too love Webscape.
So we begin with TVs, and despite fierce competition from tablets, phones and PCs, the television still remains the centre around which home entertainment revolves. And at shows like this, TV manufacturers make sure we never forget that fact with these tremendous, noisy displays. So David Reed has been on the trail of the small screen that keeps getting bigger and smarter and more transparent.
We are surrounded by screens, pulling our eyeballs in every direction, and families are becoming atomized, each of us lost in a video game playing, PC using, tablet watching bubble. So you get parents saying, why don't we do stuff together as a family anymore, like watching TV? You see, the TV is seen as the centre of home entertainment, which is why so many TV manufacturers are concerned that televisions talk to everything else. Everything else means our devices and us. Smartphones, tablets and other devices can, thanks to Wi-Fi, get content to and from the TV. It's what TV makers mean by smart, and like Panasonic's Viera application, it allows you to beam, swipe or smear content to and from the telly. But it's not just devices. Haier has been trying to do away with the remote through hand gestures and brain waves. They've also teamed up with the Swedish outfit Tobii, who are specialists in eye tracking technology.
The first concrete possibility, yes, is for the disabled people, but also we can figure out in the next years to have something embedded in a pair of glasses, for instance, and you can just navigate in an intuitive way inside your TV and inside your content.
You can imagine that eye tracking gets easier the larger the screen, which is just as well because that's definitely the direction we're heading. LG was boasting the world's largest and slimmest OLED TV, quite a feat given that a couple of years ago OLED screens were picture frame postcards. OLEDs are slimmer because each cell emits its own light, so no need for a backlight.
What we've been able to do with OLED is get it to a very large size. We have a couple 55-inch OLED models on display here, but get it to a price point that's realistic. And it's still expensive though. It's going to be a little bit less than $10,000. But again, that's a far cry from, we had a 15-inch OLED 2 years ago, and that was $15,000.
The joke doing the rounds is that culturally you're in trouble if your TV is bigger than your bookshelf. Well, some of us are going to need to buy some books, and some pretty dense books at that, because as these TVs are getting bigger, they are cramming in the pixels. Full HD is 1080, which means 2.1 megapixels. Mega is a million, by the way. This 84-inch ultra-high definition screen on show at LG is calling itself 4K, which means 8.3 million pixels. But that's not the last word, because Panasonic was exhibiting an 8K, a staggering 33.2 megapixels.
As the TVs have got thinner from the old CRT sets to the modern sets that we have now with LCD and plasma, where the TVs are an inch thick at the most, we have gone bigger and bigger and bigger in our homes. So really, if we want to go bigger still, we need to improve the resolution. Otherwise, the pictures will look grainy and not clear and not sharp, and that's not what we want ultimately. So you'll see the first jump really to 4K resolution, I'd imagine, in a few years' time. And then ultimately, if you want something like a 145-inch screen like we have on display at IFA today, you'll need to go to the 8K resolution.
4K like this is already being used for surgical applications and professional video, but you're probably going to have to wait until 2020 before 8K is on the market. Another direction some developers are going in is with 3D TV. They're ditching the glasses. Now, with some of these glassless sets, you need to watch the TV while stuck to certain sweet spots, or the picture unravels. But Stream TV has come up with a technology that they say works whatever your point of view. Now, I'm no fan of 3D, but as a disinterested observer, I can tell you do get a 3D effect with their system. Stream TV also say they can 3Dize 2D pictures.
It's a 3D module that we give to a TV manufacturer, and they will add it to their device that turns it into a 3D without glasses television set. And eventually we will have like phones and tablets and laptops and PCs all using this technology.
A couple of manufacturers have come out with transparent screens. Samsung's is very impressive. One idea is that you can put it on a shop front. Now, Samsung is emphasising the environmental benefits of doing away with energy-burning backlights and using natural light instead. TVs are getting smarter, bigger, clearer. If the idea is to make us feel inadequate about our current tellies, well, it's probably working.
David Reed glued to the screens, as ever. OK, next up, a look at this week's other big tech news stories.
A slew of new smartphones has been announced by some of the biggest players in the industry, keen to get the jump on Apple, which will launch its new iPhone in the next few days. First up, Nokia showed off its Lumia 920, which features wireless charging and runs Microsoft Windows Phone 8 operating system. And here's the kicker, it has a curved touch screen which can be used while wearing gloves. Nokia is hoping to claw back market share after Samsung overtook it as the world's biggest phone maker. The Finnish firm's also extending its free music streaming service to Lumia handset owners in America. The service works offline by downloading tunes and mixes of various music genres to the device. And Motorola has launched its first handset since it was acquired by Google in May. Most notable is the Razr M, the smallest phone in the 4G capable lineup, which boasts a 4.3-inch edge-to-edge screen in a super thin chassis. The chunkiest offering is the Droid Razr Max HD. Moto says it can last an impressive 21 hours of phone calling or 13 hours of video viewing. It's not just the phone space hotting up. Amazon has sparked interest in 2 new HD versions of its popular Kindle Fire. The new 7-inch version will be available outside the US, while the 8.9-inch looks set to give Apple's iPad a run for its money, priced at $299. It's also slashing the price of its basic e-readers and introducing a new higher-res one that offers a front light, making it more readable in darker conditions. Sweden turns out to be the best country in the world for making the web work for its citizens, beating the US and the UK to the top spot. A new index launched by the Web Foundation, which is led by the inventor of the web himself, analysed 61 countries to evaluate how useful the web is, content and censorship, and its political and economic impact. Sir Tim Berners-Lee said the high cost of access was the biggest barrier for most people. He says he hopes the index will spur nations and their citizens to think again about how the web is used, costed and regulated where they are. And finally, if you keep missing Click, iPhone and iPad users have another option from this week. You can now watch whatever you want, even without a connection. The BBC's catch-up service iPlayer has updated its mobile app with an offline function, allowing users to download programmes over Wi-Fi and watch them within 30 days. Once you've started watching, you've got a week to get to the end credits before the programme deletes itself. Android users will have to wait a little longer while the option is coded for them. So, go on, download us, baby.
For the last few years, most of the excitement at trade shows like IFA has revolved around tablets and smartphones. But this year, the focus has shifted at least part-way back towards the good old-fashioned PC. And that's because of the imminent release of Microsoft's Windows 8.
We've asked in the past whether the desktop PC has had its day. Even laptop shipments are plateauing, with manufacturers earlier this year trying to keep up our interests with new Ultrabooks, or slightly better laptops, as we call them. It is the tablet market that's growing, and as touchscreens with no mouse and keyboard gain popularity, the Windows way of doing things has started to look, well, a bit irrelevant. So Microsoft has come up with the touch and tablet-friendly Windows 8, which will go on sale on October the 26th.
Now, it's not quite finished yet, but this is what Windows 8 will look like. And it's actually got 2 very distinct looks. The first is the classic desktop look that everyone's familiar with. This works with the mouse and the keyboard. You'll see the taskbar down there and the icons down the left-hand side. But the second look, which is the one everyone's getting excited about, is this, the very touch-friendly Metro interface, where every application installed on the PC has a separate, big, touch-friendly launch button. And like all new operating systems, it may take a little while before every application works perfectly with Windows 8.
The eventual aim is for all software to look and behave slightly differently depending on which mode you're in. And although some apps already have a Metro version, like the photo gallery, the weather and so on, many third-party apps that we launched through Metro kicked us straight back to the desktop mode. Now, it'll be up to the makers of these apps to make sure that their software has a side which is ready for a touch-only experience. So expect a raft of Metro-friendly apps on or soon after the launch of Windows 8. But the arrival of this operating system with a split personality has also prompted hardware makers to come up with portable devices which can be used in either mode.
For example, this is Lenovo's Yoga, so named because it bends in unusual ways. You can have it in a standard laptop mode like that, or if you just want a tablet and a stand, you do that. There we go.
Sony's Vaio Duo 11 has a screen on a hinged stand. To operate in tablet mode, just snap it down on top of the keyboard.
Toshiba's brand new version of its satellite laptop becomes a tablet by folding the screen down and sliding it over the keyboard, like so.
Meanwhile, over at Dell's Enchanted Forest in Hall 13, the XPS Duo 12 employs a design first used in the Inspiron range a couple of years ago to put a little spin on the whole tablet idea.
Now this is Samsung's ATIF Smart PC, and some would say this is the ideal form factor. It's a laptop with a keyboard and a trackpad when you want it to be. When you don't want it to be, you detach the gubbins and leave it behind. Now, none of these designs are particularly new, but they're certainly more relevant now Windows 8 is upon us. And one of the problems that Windows 8 addresses is this idea that touch screens are fine for consuming stuff, but they're not so good for making stuff. However, LJ Rich has been giving it a go.
Ah, the joy of touchscreen tablets. Though sadly, those lovely big bright screens don't look quite as good when they get obscured by an on-screen keyboard or covered in greasy fingerprints.
Anyone familiar with that creative urge knows that you've got to get your ideas down as quickly as possible, and the newly announced Galaxy Note 2 comes with a stylus that when you pop it out, it gives you a note already. Now, the thing about having a tablet or a phone or whatever this thing's called is that sometimes your fingers just aren't practical enough to do detailed work, which is why the stylus that this comes with is pressure sensitive, so the harder you push it, the more of a mark you can make.
Notes are saved as a JPEG picture or a PDF file, but at present there's no support for applications outside of Samsung's ecosystem. But they tell us they're working on making these notes compatible with other software. Kind of reminds me of the old PDA.
Samsung's also showing this. It's the Galaxy camera. On the front, you've got a 21x optical zoom. And on the back, well, it looks kind of familiar because it's an Android operating system. That means that this camera is connectable either by 3G or 4G by putting a SIM card in, or with Wi-Fi. So that means you can share your pictures, but also you can download apps to play with them or save them. For example, there's Instagram and there's Dropbox.
It's not the only camera with Android on the back. Nikon just released the Coolpix S800C, also loaded with Android, but without the SIM card connection.
And finally, welcome to the smallest booth in Ether that's possibly the most creative as well. Now, composing on a portable tablet is never ideal, and this is my workaround. I use a music keyboard that you'd normally plug into a computer with a USB port.
However, I've found that if you use a separate accessory, the iPad's camera adapter, on the end of the plug, you can then plug the whole contraption into your iPad and it will work with all sorts of apps, including GarageBand. Now, if you don't want to use a quick fix, iRig have just launched the first keyboard, the iRig Keys, that's designed to plug directly into the iPad.
There's also a socket which will allow the more expressive among us to plug a foot pedal in, and that will allow for sustain and things like that, which if you're classically minded, it's lovely to have when you're writing on the run. Now, if you excuse me a second, I've just had an idea.
LJ Rich tinkling the plastic. So, you've created your masterpiece. The next thing you need to do is find yourself an audience, and Kate Russell's first website this week could help you do just that. Here's Webscape.
I love music.
We looked at a playlist generator for YouTube last week, but if you want your music a little more underground, Mixlr is a great little broadcaster for SoundCloud tracks. Just register or link to Facebook and you can start building a channel based on genre, individually chosen tracks, and even the spoken word. Once complete, you can start broadcasting and invite people to listen live with you. Switch to CrowdView if you want to interact with your listeners.
I love music.
This is another great way for fresh new bands to start building a following. SoundCloud is basically where all the cool kids hang out. So if you haven't been there yet, what have you been listening to online?
The free version lets you queue up to 24 hours of tracks. Upgrade to the paid subscription if you want to stretch that to 72 hours and be able to download your recorded broadcasts to keep and play later offline. There's also a quick start mode to have the website build a playlist for you. A nice simple way to listen to SoundCloud together live.
Music, I love music. She's my heroine.
I'm always happy to learn about good accessibility tools. So when one of my tweeters, Michael Howells, told me about a screen reader for Twitter, I got on the case straight away.
112 mentions.
Yes, I hear you talking.
The Cube is free to download, and once installed, you load up a Twitter session and you'll be asked to authorise the app in return for a code that you can enter to start the screen reader.
Retrieved access token from Twitter.
With a session running in the background, you'll get audio prompts each time a new tweet comes in. You can also operate all the standard functions like direct messages, retweets, and even opening up a URL that's been linked in a post with a series of keyboard commands. You'll definitely need to go through the README file, as the keyboard shortcuts are vital and there are loads of them. Although Michael reminded me that the vision impaired are more familiar with using keyboard commands. This app lets you do everything you'd expect from a Twitter tool, including retweets, follows, opening web pages, and even blocking people if their tweets offend you.
URL copied to clipboard.
If you find yourself stuck in a major city in need of a last-minute hotel, you can find some really spectacular deals with Hotel Tonight, a free app for iPhone and Android that operates a same-day discount business model to bring you a couple of stellar deals with select hotels in the cities they cover.
This is an interesting proposition because you're not just fed the cheapest possible room price, which isn't necessarily always the best deal. Instead, the website negotiates with a hand-picked selection of hotels to offer you deals in 3 standard categories: basic, luxe, and hip. The service started out mainly in the USA, but they're expanding rapidly into the rest of the world, with popular destinations added every month. In the UK, you'll now find deals in London, Birmingham, Edinburgh, Glasgow and Liverpool, with Manchester coming along later this month. You can see how many rooms are available at rates up to 70% cheaper than the list price. So, if you fancy treating yourself to an impromptu overnighter in a 5-star hotel, this could be just the excuse you've been waiting for.
Kate Russell's Webscape, and as always, Kate's links are up at our website, bbc.co.uk/click, along with all our antics from IFA 2012. Hope you've enjoyed our jaunt around Europe's largest technology show. If you'd like to get in touch, we live on Twitter at BBC Click, and that website address once again, bbc.co.uk/click. But that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Hello there. After a fine few days of summery weather, the weekend is shaping up pretty well for most of us. Across many eastern parts of the UK, this is where we're going to see the very warm and the sunny conditions, whereas further west, a bit of a different story. Although there will be some decent spells of sunshine for western areas, particularly by Sunday, there'll be a few blustery showers and turning a touch cooler too, so a bit of a mixed bag. We start off today with a bit of mist and fog around for parts of the southwest of England, Wales, the Midlands. That burns away quickly. Always a bit more in the way of cloud towards the northwestern half of the UK, but it will brighten up for Northern Ireland and Northern England too. Some sunshine coming through for many eastern parts of Scotland and across central and eastern England in that glorious sunshine, highs up to around 27 degrees. If you are heading to the Olympic Stadium to watch the Paralympic events, well, it's looking like a glorious day here too. Temperatures up to around 25 Celsius, just a little patchy cloud turning the sunshine hazy at times, but we're going to end the day today on a bright, dry note. And staying dry for most of us overnight tonight as well. Some patchy cloud here and there, a bit more of a breeze than recent nights, and that means it should remain generally fog-free, where we have seen a few foggy patches for the past few mornings, and not quite as chilly, temperatures between 11 to 15 degrees. We are going to see a bit of a change coming through on Sunday, and that's because of this weather front that's heading in from the Atlantic, bringing tightening isobars with it too. And that indicates that the winds are going to be picking up from a southerly direction. It's going to turn quite breezy for many western areas, and that breeze introducing more in the way of cloud and of 1 or 2 showers, whereas further east we hold on to that warm sunshine. So for many western areas where we've got the breeze and the cloud, temperatures are going to be around about the mid-teens. Further east in the sunshine, highs of around 27 or 28 degrees.
You don't seem to understand your USP.
You're not going to make me rich, and I don't think you're going to make yourself rich. You cannot be for real. It's a complete waste of time. Ridiculous, ludicrous, stupid, insane valuation.
To come in here asking for 100k, you're off the wall.
I'm out. Hello, I'm out.
You're talking rubbish. I'm out.
Dragon's Den returns tomorrow at 9 on BBC Two.
To the young girl who survived a gun attack which left 4 dead. Presidential rivals clash over jobs in the US economy. Barack Obama admits the latest figures are not good enough. Crossing the finishing line, why 2 British hand cyclists failed in their bid to be awarded a joint bronze medal. Hello, welcome to BBC News, broadcast to our viewers on PBS in America and around the globe. I'm Adnan Nawaz. Coming up a little later for you, Prince Harry begins his 2nd combat tour of duty in Afghanistan as an Apache helicopter gunner. And 2 old enemies battling a common threat. US intelligence and Cuban firepower are taking on drug traffickers before they reach American waters. Hello again. Detectives investigating the murder of a British family on holiday in France have revealed details of their conversations with the 4-year-old girl who survived. She's spoken of her terror as her father, mother and a woman believed to be her grandmother were killed. The girl's 7-year-old sister is still too badly injured to be interviewed. Among many lines of investigation, one possibility is that there may have been a family feud. But the father's brother has told British police that's not the case. Our correspondent John Kay has the latest from the scene of the shooting in Annecy.
This is the remote country lane where the Al-Hili family was murdered, now open to traffic again. Hard to believe that a quiet drive here could end in such brutality. Aerial pictures show police examining the BMW after the shooting. The vehicle stuck in the corner